And we're back on the show, 99.3 Nigeria Info, speaking about mining, the Nigerian mining sector. Let me read first paragraph of this article. Nigeria's erstwhile Mines and Steel Minister Kayode Fayemi has recently resigned to pursue his gubernatorial ambition in his home state of Ekiti. In choosing a replacement, President Buhari could plump for Fayemi's erstwhile Deputy Minister of State, Abubakar Bawa, with whom Fayemi recorded significant achievements. Yet for Buhari, for Buhari's appointment to prove transformative, he must not only continue existing overhauls, but also adopt a harder reformist edge. We do know that mine's contribution to GDP is still significantly under 0.5% in the economy, and that is despite the 47 at least known minerals we have right now. I'm very sure with the way Nigeria is seriously blessed with mineral resources, you might find a few more deposits here and there, but right now we're looking at the 47 we have right now. I have with me in the studio Dr. Ola Bello, executive at Good Governance Africa, and we're going to be looking at mining, and specifically spurred by the article he wrote. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, starting with the issues on ground, what can we say are Fayemi's legacies in his is it 2 years in office, 1.5 years, 2.5 years in office? What are his legacies between then and now? I do know that contribution of mining to GDP has significantly improved. Coming from a low base, so yes, you expect it to have improved, but it's still. What can we say he achieved in his tenure?
I mean, I think in assessing Fayemi, one has to bear in mind very much the constraints within which he's had to operate. I think a lot of the fundamental structural changes you need in that sector have proved a little bit impossible. Because it's almost like opening the Pandora box. At the top of all of that is the elephant in the room, the so-called derivation. It's always been 30% throughout this for much of this our current democratic dispensation, and there is the feeling that you cannot change it for mining without creating a new round of agitation in the oil-producing community.
Exactly.
Saying if you give more to mineral-producing state, then you ought to do the same thing for the oil producer. But in a more sensible context, I think the message would be getting out clearly to the leading oil producing states to say, look, you can also make money from mining in addition to what you would be making on oil and gas, and that oil and gas is a far more matured sector than mining, and that we ought to treat it differently in terms of the derivation. In my view, we should be given at least 25 to 33% in derivation to mineral producing state, because unlike oil and gas, you need to give the state a stake that convinces them that they should be a viable co-manager of that sector with the federal government. But because of what we are as a country, that's proved extremely difficult.
But why has mining significantly not worked in the country where we have a massive deposit of all sorts of mineral resources which are needed for all sorts of production across the world? Why is it no? Why, for instance, the opportunity to be able to employ is massive in that sector. We're looking at almost 20,000 jobs if we're going to set up mines, the way South Africa has done. Why is it not working?
I think it can work. It's not gone as quickly and decisively in the direction we would have liked it to go. I think mining can contribute a whole a lot to Nigeria's economy. It's a sector that should be contributing about 4 to 5% of GDP, and that's even modest when you compare it to what you have in countries like South Africa and Ghana. I think to realize the sector's potential, we need two things. On the one hand, you need a far bolder minister than Fayemi was politically. There were a number of really contentious issues. that you ultimately shied away from and just played
Specifically-
it safe, specifically on
I-
derivation.
I even remember
all of
the
that.
I even remember the issue of the Okwela mine between Dangote and Boa issue. Yeah, somehow we just died the issue. We don't still know who owns the mine. We just know we've not heard any
You're very correct.
issues about
if,
it anymore.
If you're gonna have a better run, a more productive and well-respected mining sector in this country, you need to deal with all of those ground rules issues, from derivation principle to the more technical changes you need at the mining cadastral office. Even going, to provide clarity on the way that we're gonna do mineral right allocation. Is it the person that explore and finds that have the first right to mine, or we're gonna try and compensate them in some way and try and put that up for auction so that we can secure more money for the country? Those ground rule issues, you need to address them, and you would not address them viably if you don't have a far bolder minister than Fayemi was. He recorded significant achievement. We cannot run away from that, and I'm privy to this because for nearly 7 years now I've been advising the African Union Commission on mineral sector governance as part of their so-called technical working group on the African mining vision. He achieved a lot. I think his achievement is primarily in terms of the tweaks you need, making sure that you build up the capacity of the Nigerian Geological Survey Organization, staff audit, at the investment promotion arm of the ministry and all of those things. But until you deliver benefits concretely in terms of job, skills, and all of those things that mining can deliver to provide, I think, a really transformational impact at the grassroots, you will not convince a lot of people that we're making progress on this. So on those both and not issues in terms of how you regulate the sector, whoever is coming in, whether man or woman, needs to be bolder, and we can break that down. The other thing I think you need is a fundamental shift in mindset across this whole sector, involving all of the different stakeholders, from investors through regulators to mining communities, all the way to some of the NGOs and non-governmental organizations that do advocacy around this sector. There are pinpoint issues we should be targeting. For example, I think the way we see women in this sector is not very helpful. Where Nigeria is today is that we've got a Labor Relation Act, the 2004 Labor Act, Section 55 and 56, that prevents women from working on mines at certain hours of the day, and explicitly outlawing them from working under the ground.
Wait.
It's not well known. This is what we have on the statute books.
Oh my God.
So we need a much more gender-sensitive approach. We need a much more community-focused approach. Free, proud, and informed consent when you are, allocating mineral rights. We're doing that, but the Nigerian factor creeps in again. One of the issues that mining investors are dealing with now are conflict in communities where different parts of the community form themselves into blocks. One part give their consent, and another part then goes to Abuja and say we've not properly given consent to this prospector or mineral producer. When you have this sort of fragmentation, this overall mindset, that focuses on revenue too much, without thinking what are our corresponding responsibility for better governing this sector, I think you end up with this sort of slow growth in mining's contribution to GDP.
Speaking of women in mining, you see, from the pictures I've seen of the rural areas in terms of peasant mining, and we want to call it illegal mining, you find out that a lot of women do participate in this, but that's not even the concept or the thought of my mind. My question was around things that happen with lead poisoning because they're not mined under the right circumstances, mined under the right with the right apparatuses and things like that. What are we doing to try and bring those peasant miners into a proper fold? Well, if there's no proper structure in the first place, there's even nowhere to bring them in. But we need to actively, quickly bring those peasant miners away from, what they're doing, because it's a lot of risk to their lives. some of them get trapped under, what they've just made themselves. Some of them get poisoned by the children. Even I read about that some time ago. Is there any thought to them, or we're just thinking about the big companies first of all?
Well, I mean, the way that mining actually disproportionately affect women, I think it's a well-established fact. Mercury poisoning, lead poisoning, women are disproportionately exposed to this because when it comes to sieving some of the ores, in the case of gold production,
yeah, exactly.
women are specifically sought after because of the patience with which they move the siever, and they manage to get higher grade gold out of the earth, and residues than men would often do. But my point actually is that what we should be focusing on is enlightenment and support to operators in the sector, not outlawing what they can do or cannot do in the way that we are not doing for men. We must give women choice. And I think it's important, the message we send to our women on the sector. If we have law that explicitly prohibits them from taking part in certain activities, we're simply saying to them, we don't see you functioning fully
exactly
the way men function in this sector. And if you look all around the world, you've got women in very senior positions in some of the most successful Australian, South African, Canadian mining company. I think legal changes in Nigeria must now be stepped up to better empower women in the sector. I think in complement to that, and this is probably the most exciting story of Nigeria's mining, you see, we focus too much on the oil and gas sector because it's a cash cow. We get a lot of revenue from it. We can get our revenue.
We don't need to do much in terms of investment. We just open it up and I mean, the revenue. This is one of the things you said here, and which, of course, in the article you were talking about the revenue sharing between the regulator and the operator. I think the only way, well, let me not say the only way, but I think the way it will make much sense to the Nigerian government, because of course it's what they're used to, is if we have that same revenue sharing formula we had with oil and gas, with IOCs who come in, set up themselves, do the heavy lifting, and they just give us our share.
Well, I mean, that's just simply not possible in mining because the dynamics in this sector is fundamentally different than the way it works. Oil and gas is very capital intensive. The part of mining that's actually potentially more beneficial for Nigeria doesn't need a lot of capital as such. Unlike oil and gas that I think delivers skills at the top end, mining, if done properly, also has the capability of upgrading the skills of our people at the grassroots level where the impact is potentially more transformational. So this is why I talked about the need to move beyond that revenue mindset. What sort of revenue or benefit do you want? Do you want hot money like in oil and gas where it's ready made and it's not avoidable?
Or sustainable money that you can...
You need sustainable money. You need more sensible approaches that focused on the long term. If we get mining right, I'm telling you, between now and the next 3-year horizon, when Buhari gets, if he wins, when he gets to the midterm of the incoming new administration that we would have from 2019, whether he or somebody else wins, if they focus on this sector, Nigeria can create 300,000 jobs, good quality jobs through that sector.
I can see.
How do we achieve this? We need better analysis. I think one of the things the message we need to get out there is that there is mining and there is mining. If you're talking about large-scale industrial mining, the type you're talking about where big investor comes in, they get the job done, they write us our check, we shake hand at the end of the money and we go off to Abuja and share money. That's possible in some context, but you are not going to convince the BHP Billitons of this world or Anglo-American to come into Nigeria with hundreds of billions of dollars to invest, because they look at what we've done with the oil and gas sector and it frightens them.
Yeah.
But the good news story is that Nigeria actually doesn't need this sort of large-scale investment in the sector. We need to disaggregate. At some level, we're going to need this big player, and the truth of the matter is we already have it. If you look at the limestone sector, it's very vibrant. Dangote is there. Lafarge Cement is there, BUA is there. And that sector is booming. Nigeria's challenge is to do for all of our other minerals
as a
what
matter
we've
of fact,
done for limestone.
Our limestone quality is one of the best in the world, which amazes me.
We've got other really quality things right there staring you and I under the nose, and we don't see it. You look at the limestone sector, that's a big money spinner. Even more exciting than limestone, you look at what we call development minerals. We distinguish between industrial minerals, which limestone is, and development minerals. Development minerals in the sense that ordinary people can get involved in them. And when we do it right, their poverty reduction potential is very high. I'm talking about things like semi-precious stones. You walk into the shops of a lot of the money changers in this country, right around big hotels, from Lagos to Kaduna and elsewhere. You see all of these things stack up on their shelf. It's foreigners that actually appreciate them. I think they are coming into fashion in Nigeria now. A lot of our young men and women are wearing them as bracelets. If we manage this sector properly, provide the sort of support and finance that operators in the sector need, we can put a lot of Nigerian young people in, to work through this sector, and they would make a sustainable livelihood from it. We've got it here. So that's one aspect, and the development mineral. Then you have what they call dimension stones. Nigeria imported hundreds of millions of dollars of marble product into this country last year.
Which
Nigeria has
shocking.
marble aplenty. So we need to acquire the right sort of skill to turn them into the end product that we want, and we will conserve a lot of foreign exchange by so doing. If you talk about the large-scale industrial mining sector, we're also not going to get people piling in, because the truth of the matter is we don't know what's there in terms of industrial mineral. We're still bandying around geological data that the British left us with in 1960. And Fayemi tried to try and direct some investment into this, but because of all the contending needs, we're not investing in geological exploration on the scale that we need. So
at least even specifically know what exactly we have in what detail. And that's why I say, for now, it's like we have 47 proven minerals, but who knows how many more.
The quantity.
Quantity that's even there.
The good thing is when we've explored, though, Mother Earth has thrown something up exciting. The nickel discovered in Kaduna last year is one of the highest grade anywhere in the world. So if we explore, I'm sure we would make a lot more exciting discovery as that one.
By the way, limestone is one of the primary ingredients in making cement. It's actually, I'm not sure if it's possible for you to make cement without limestone, but this is the world of today, so you can find something else. But it's one of the primary ingredients, and the quality grade to which our limestone is one of the reasons why some of our cement brands are one of the best brands in the world. And we get the limestone right here. And that's why you heard Dr. Ola speak about the fact that the likes of Dangote, BUA, Lafarge are invested in those sectors. Because, I mean, naturally, if it is one of your raw materials, you get the mine and you're able to do it. But now that we've been able to look at this, new mining minister coming in, he might not come in by the precedence of this government. They might just not do anything. But let's say somebody else is appointed to that position. What are the low-hanging fruits? Let's say it's not BUA Buhari, who has, continued, who has, worked with the former mines minister, who knew what the projection was, who knew what the targets were, who knew what the meetings to go to already were, who would just basically continue from where he stopped. Let's say it's not him, and it's somebody fresh, brand new. What are the low-hanging fruits for this person?
Well, two comments here. The first is that actually, if you want to instill confidence in prospective investors, survey after survey show that mining investors, whether they're local or international, are looking not just for regulatory clarity, but also stability around the personnel, around policies. So I think on balance it would make sense for the president to simply elevate the guy who's been number 2 with Fayemi over the last 3 years.
Just put him.
And I'm fairly convinced that he would do a reasonable job continuing what they've been doing. But he cannot continue business as usual. Whoever the new minister is must go at twice the speed they have done up until now. They must address some of the important issues that they've been running away from, some of them imposed on them by the nature of our country's political economy, some of them self-inflicted handicaps, I would say. I've talked about the need to change the constitution so that we have a different derivation principle for mineral derivation percentage for mineral producing state. That's something Nigeria imposes on a minister, and they must be more forceful in trying to change that. Some of the handicaps they potentially are creating for themselves is in terms of the ideas they've bandied around, and I'm not sure this is this is well thought through. One, they've talked about a mining commission for Nigeria, which would be the lead administrator for the sector. If we don't do it right, we're simply going to create a lot of duplicated structures.
Exactly.
That's simply going to be doing things that a well-functioning ministry should be doing. That's number one. They can have it, but they have to be clear about where its specific value add is. The second thing is that, a minister needs to be very forthright. The discussion so far has been about, let's create this strategic mining partnership with states. It's simply saying, we want the states to help us. We realize they're the frontline administrator. They're closer to the mining field and they will be able to do a good job helping us, but we're not willing to give them the incentives that would actually make states see mining as something that can help them grow their internally generated revenue, a sector where they can derive more tax if there are more players coming into the sector, a sector that can create jobs for a lot of the young people in many of these states. I think the federal government, through the mining ministry, has a responsibility, to take to take up the challenge and actually speak to some of the fundamental issues that are hampering the sector. And I think a change of the constitution to increase derivation percentage for mineral producing state would be a good thing. All of Nigeria's states have minerals, so no one's going to be left behind there. And I think a lot of the fear is actually irrational.
So you might get more. Anyways, I hope the people in office are listening, or people who are making decisions, because generally mining is a critical factor and a critical aspect of Nigeria's economy going into the future, especially as crude oil is becoming less and less important on global economics. Thank you, Dr. Olabello, for being with us. Always a great time having you. We'll always have you in the studio when we're talking about policy issues. Always an explanatory time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's an executive with Good Governance Africa, basically letting us know what is happening in and around the mining sector. All right, City of Lagos. Zainab is in the studio with us. I'm handing over to Idegwa. I'm trying to put on your mic. I don't even know which one is your mic. Okay, is that your mic?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
All right. All right, so what are you guys doing right after this? Disability, not inability, right?
Yes, disability, not inability with Dan Oti is up next.
Okay, so you guys might want to stick around for that while the beautiful ladies will take you through that show. Thank you very much again, Dr. Olabello, for being with us in the studio. And so City of Lagos, look at your timepiece. It is 1 minute after 10 o'clock. Still a fantastic morning to go out and be profitable.